Haftarah 101. This week's Haftarah is for Parsha Shelach, and it comes from the book of Joshua, the book of Yehoshua, and very neatly aligns with the Parsha. This week's Torah portion begins with the story of the 12 spies that were sent by Moshe to the land of Israel to scout out the land. They came back with a negative report, and only 2 of them came out with a positive report, and everything went from there. The Haftarah, however, speaks about Yehoshua. This is 40 years later, after the generation that cried about, oh my goodness, we're not going to enter the land, etc. That generation died off. The adults said, so your children are going to be the ones to go in. So they have to wander around for 40 years. 40 years later, they're now ready to go into the land. And Joshua is the leader of the Jewish people now. And he quietly sends 2 spies into the city of Yericho, because that's going to be their entry point to the land of Israel. So it's a story of spies again, even though a lot of it's very different. Foremost, there's 2 spies, not 12, etc. The text does not say who the spies were, but it is said that these spies were Pinchas and Caleb. So Caleb was part of the first group of spies. He was the one, and him and Joshua said, no, don't listen to this negative report. Of course, we can go to the land. It's going to be beautiful and wonderful. So, of course, Joshua knew he could trust Caleb. Caleb was also from the tribe of Judah, which is the leading tribe of the Jewish people. So it's kind of like he represented everyone. And then Pinchas is someone that has a whole Parsha name for him, because he stood up in zealotry, I guess you could say, and he took out the leader of the tribe of Shimon, who was sitting with a Midianite woman when no one else was acting. He stood up and he acted, and he was promoted, but he became a Cohen because of it. So he's a very highly regarded, very special person. So these 2 were sent to the land, into Yericho, to check it out. Now the difference is that the first time when the spies went into the land, part of what they're going to do now is to just see what the land actually is, not just the entry points, because then Moshe's already thinking, of course God's going to go and conquer the land for us, but come back with all the good stuff. Like, oh, we went on vacation to this wonderful place. Everything's so wonderful there. So it wasn't this whole stealth mission. They just went and checked it out, and they came back with these massive fruits. You can't not notice these fruits being carried out of the land. And the people saw it and were like, wow, it really is. There's bounty in this land, despite all their crying. But this time it's 2 people going in stealth, and they didn't go to check out the fruits and stuff like that. They went to say, how can we get into the city? How can we begin the actual conquering? It's time for 40 years later. It's time for things to happen. They actually didn't make it very far. They went into Yericho, and they went to the house of a woman named Rachav, and she's described as a zona, which usually that's translated as a harlot, basically. And different reasons, or like, is that really what it is, etc. But the general idea is a lot of different kinds of people visited her. A lot of aristocrats went to her. So this place she was operating, they would have heard a lot of secrets. So if you get information from someone, she's someone you get information from. They go to her, and she actually hides them. They try to be all stealth-like, but their appearance is still noted. And the king sends people to like, hey, Rachel, who have you got hiding in your house? She hides them, and she's like, oh, these men came, but they left already. If you go chase after them right now, you'll probably catch up to them. And she convinced them. The soldiers go chasing after them, and they close the gates of the city. And she goes to the spies, probably Caleb and Pinchas. She's like, okay, I sent them in the other direction. You should probably also go into the mountains and hide there for a few days, and then go back to your camp. And she also tells them, the terror of you, as we've heard what God has done for you. We've heard about the sea. We heard about the nations that you've conquered, etc. And everyone's terrified of you. They're like melting in fear. So it seems like, they didn't get very far into the city, but that's exactly what they needed to know, is that morale is very low. The Canaanites they were scared of them. So the Jewish people are about to come in, and they're like, I don't know if we want to be fighting these people, which is what they needed to hear. So that was enough for them to go back. So Rachav then, she lowers them out. Her house was kind of built into the wall of the city. So she's going to lower them out the window for them to be able to go and escape. But she says, please, in exchange for this kindness that I've done for you, save your life, please save my life and the life of my family, my mother, my father, my sisters and brothers, etc. So I said, okay, if you tie this red string to your window, we'll know that this is you, and whoever's inside the house will be spared. And if anybody leaves the house during the siege when we take over the city, that's on them. We can't guarantee anything for them at that point. So fine, this is what's going to be done. And she lowers them, and they go. Now, the end of the story is that it's later said that Rachav converted, that she married Joshua, that she went down as one of a great woman in history. Her descendants were very great people. She's also listed as one of the foremost beautiful who ever lived, Rachav. So there's a lot of there's more parts to the story than just that, but a general idea about having Pinchas and Kalev, these two spies that went into the land of Israel, is Pinchas, as a Kohen, represents the spiritual side of things, and Kalev, being the leader of one of the larger tribes, well, the largest tribes of the Jewish people, kind of represents more just like the regular people kind of thing. And the whole idea of going to the land of Israel is that we're now going to turn the land of Canaan, as it was then known, we're going to turn to the land of Israel. And then we're going to take this regular, quote unquote, regular land and make it a holy land, right? Which is the Kohanim, the tribe of Levites, their job was to be the spiritual heads, the spiritual leaders and teachers within the Jewish people. So sending one of each, sending one of the people and sending one of the spiritual heads is an indicator of what's about to happen now going into the land of Israel. And that is the Haftarah for this week.